And we are live with another Roll High, Don't Die episode. And today I've got two wonderful guests with me from the Dice Tyrants. So, starting with James, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm James. I'm online known as Osirian Legacy. I'm the founder of Dice Tyrants. And I'm excited to be on here and chit-chat about some tabletop gaming and stuff like that.
Looking forward to it. What you got for us, Tony?
Yeah, I'm Tony. I'm the Dice Barbarian. You guys know me on Twitter as Dice Barbarian. I do a ton of stuff with James, my buddy. We do Dice Tyrants. I'm on there all the time. Every once in a while, you might see me get on the Xbox and yell at some games because I'm really horrible at it. But a lot of it is mostly is D&D talk and play. It's pretty fun, and I'm excited too. I want to talk some dice with Fred right here. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
I agree on the video game side. It doesn't matter if you're good at it as long as you're entertaining. Like if you're gonna fail, like fail goodly.
Yes, that's
That's
what I try and do.
that's
And I
how-
do that a lot actually.
That's how my video game streams are too. Like, you guys want to watch me suck at Overwatch? Let's do it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I play too. So yeah, I want to jump on to Reinhardt and completely fail at life. So it's pretty awesome.
Reinhardt, I love you already. It's been a while since I played, but I did a lot of Reinhardt and a lot of Lucio just because.
A lot of Torbjorn. He's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about Dice Tyrants. What is it? How did y'all get the stream going, and what do y'all do?
That is a long story. I'll shorten it up though.
I've got 1 hour. So
that's the exact amount of time.
58 minutes.
So roughly about, I want to say like a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
we were kind of playing around with the idea of running a D&D community and just playing off stream, and we found that it was going pretty good. And actually Tony and I here talked about, possibly getting into the streaming side of things. We did a couple test runs and stuff like that. Did not go very well.
Nope.
At all. People eating spaghetti on stream.
Yep. 28 hot dogs and some macaroni and cheese.
spaghetti? Like, that seems like a weird.
Oh man, it was
Like, whether you're streaming or not, spaghetti tends not to be like D&D night snack.
No.
Like,
yeah, amongst other things. It was great. Definitely a learning experience.
We did some cleansing on our server. Basically just let people know, like, we made it clear that we were moving towards the streaming regiment and y'all aren't going to fit in. We made people very clear that, like, we need to be professional. It just wasn't happening. So moving from there, we got the people that we have now, such as Ty and Sanan and Shannon and everybody, and it's been amazing.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun playing with everybody, and we're actually recruiting right now too. We're looking for about 5 to 10 more streamers that are looking to jump on the show and play some TTRPG and maybe even some like Neverwinter Nights and stuff like that.
Yep.
Not to be confused with the Neverwinter MMO, because that is not what we are looking to do.
no, Neverwinter Nights and Neverwinter Nights 2 I have played tons of. Neverwinter, the MMO, I like played the beta, but then was like, okay, it's an MMO. Like, it's exactly what I expected from an MMO. And then haven't really touched it since. I think it's still in my Steam library though.
Nah, that's the same thing happened with me. I think I've like downloaded it and jumped in like 2 times and then just never really stuck.
I was actually playing some Neverwinter Nights 2 recently because I went through. I thought I was supposed to be deployed right now. I won't get too much into personal stuff, but I was supposed to be like in a war zone right now. And so I went and did I'm going to get a new laptop and I'm going to get one that can play some games, and I'm going to get a bunch of like single player, like, doesn't matter if you got internet, doesn't matter what the processing speed is, like, you can play it in the middle of nowhere games. And so I got a bunch of puzzle type games, like the old Myst games and all the games that Scion Studios has made, but then a lot of things like Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights and those like old, like, you know what game I normally don't play when I'm sitting on my $2,000 desktop, like with massive graphics cards? Like the old stuff that was all like, let me hold down control to select and move, and like, no. Yeah. But if you're sitting in the middle of nowhere on a 14-hour shift, like, you'll put up with, I can do Icewind Dale again. So.
I like that. Yeah, see, that was another thing that I was doing is I was thinking about streaming me playing my classic ADS and playing like old original Final Fantasy and these old games that we grew up on. I think that would be a kick. I don't know how much the younger crowd would enjoy it, but I enjoy the hell out of it. Like Wizards and Warriors and old Final Fantasy and Pool of Radiance and all these old games for Stelius. I'd love to stream that stuff just because it was such cool stories and it was a lot of fun back in the day.
With Larian Studios taking over and doing Baldur's Gate 3 and all the hype that they got for Divinity Original Sin 2, I'm wondering if, especially with the new resurgence we're seeing in the RPG crowd, if people going, man, Baldur's Gate 3 is really awesome, I wonder what the first games are like, are going to see that like, well, it's like $3 on Steam,
right?
Even if I play it for an hour. So it'll be interesting to see if a lot of those old school, go for the eyes, boo, start getting some traction again.
That's great.
No, I'm really excited for Larian to take over and make that game. Like, oh god, because Divinity 1 and 2, the story, the combat, everything was absolutely, in my mind, perfect. It's very, very good.
I like that Original Sin 2 was so popular and so close to an RPG that the Looking for Groups subreddit finally just gave up and said, fine, people can LFG for that game here. This is normally for tabletop role-playing games, but so many people are coming here looking for Original Sin 2 groups. It's close enough. Cool. Like, knock yourselves out.
Right.
Yeah, I'm excited for Baldur's Gate 3. That's going to be fun. James and I are definitely going to hit that one.
Oh yeah.
I want to get a better rig just for that, because that's going to be a lot of fun. We talked about like doing voices. Like, okay, spoiler alert, voices are horrible that come out of this mouth right here. They're just terrible. But I love it. It's fun. Like doing really shitty accents is my thing.
I'm in the same boat, dude.
Yeah, like, dude, I don't know how I'm not a voice actor and all this stuff, but I get a kick out of, that's how I get into character when I play my TTRPGs. And we were thinking how fun it would be to like make the characters in Baldur's Gate and then like act them out with like voice acting or whatever, like for fun. And as we read what the characters are saying. So that'll be fun. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, that'll be a good time. I'm super excited for that.
Especially for my one-shots, I'm always like super casual. A lot of them are aimed at like teaching new people the game. So I'm not like trying to drive anyone off by like, you have to be in character and you have to get all the lore right and all that stuff. A lot of times it's like, show up, drink a couple of beers, roll dice, whatever. Cool. Mm-hmm. So because I do so much of that style gaming, my voices are very not half-assed. I'm just not trying to be anything more than half-assed. And anything I do is going to sound like a guy with an Alabama accent trying to do a Scottish accent. So like,
oh man,
I worked as a linguist for a little bit, and if there's one thing that's worse than a guy with an Alabama drawl trying to speak Persian or Korean, it's a guy with an Alabama drawl trying to be like a Scottish dwarf or something like that. Because no matter what I do, like I can sit there and force myself to talk without the accent, but when I'm chill and relaxed in D&D mode is not when I can like have the mental like strength to be like, speak slowly and clearly and do not drawl out your words. No, I break down into my military maintainer who cusses a lot and slings all the slang around.
Yeah. I can understand. I served 3 years in the Army way back in the day. So I totally understand all of that. Like my Maximilian Arcast, my character that I love, I have this like really horrible, I don't even know what it is. Like, I don't even know what accent it is. It's like if you took Irish, Scottish, British, and Australian, and then like threw in something else.
Yep.
That's literally, and I could start with like a 5-word sentence, and it's all 3 of them come out by the time I finish. I get to the end. It's great. I love it.
My favorite thing ever is no matter how much I try to be like, okay, this person has this accent, this person has this one, and this one has this one. By the end of the session, they're mixed up, or one of the characters' accents. 1 in 20 D&D. Gregory Festo was in my most recent one shot, and he was doing like a really good Irish accent, I think, for a halfling. And halfway through, like half the NPCs had Irish accents, and I was just like, damn it.
That's me in Russian accent.
Russian, yeah, I was gonna say Russian.
I always end up, I don't know why, I have no idea.
I've only done one character with a Russian accent, and it was my last Tabaxi, and it was for Tomb of Annihilation. I did a Tabaxi barbarian because I was like, it's Tomb of Annihilation, like we're gonna die. The whole point is we're using the harder rules for the old hex crawl and like harder con saves and harder death saves and all of the stuff. So like throwaway character, right? I'm gonna make a cat that's super dexterous, but then give him a two-handed axe and like barbarian. But he referred to himself in the third person and spoke with a thick Russian accent, almost the same way that the same speaking style as the Khajiit from Skyrim and Elder Scrolls games. And so it was just like, his name was Rain Against Cliffs, and he always, rain and then whatever in this like terrible broken Russian accent, talking like Maik the Liar.
I like that you stuck with the actual naming style of the Tabaxi too. That's cool.
Yeah. That's the funnest thing about Tabaxi, is coming up some weird name like that, like Thunder Across Mountain or Smoke on the Water.
Right.
Yeah.
My Tabaxi names are always like true to style, at least when we're in Forgotten Realms. If I was doing homebrew or something where the Tabaxi had a different name style, then whatever. But my Tabaxi names are always true to style, and then my halfling names are always weird and crazy, like Finian Tossbottle or Martha Fishwallop, or stuff like that. But
that's awesome.
Same thing as Goliaths. They have like a weird. They've got like a hard name, then they've got like a clan name, but in the middle is like I think it's a nickname, if I remember that set up correctly.
It's almost like Native American style, like 10 Bears or Cobra Killer or stuff like that.
Yeah. It's awesome, man. You got to stick with that kind of stuff.
On that note, what is the weirdest, funniest, strangest character name y'all have ever had, be it for a character or an NPC?
Name?
Yep. Oh, see, the wife's already in chat with mine because we were doing a one-shot, and this was right before the last time I deployed, actually. We were doing a one-shot, and I was like, I need a name for my dwarf. It's a dwarven shaman because it was 4E. And she's like, just pick something like super manly sounding. And I was like, all right, Chuck Steak. And so for the next 4 hours, Chuck Steak and his pet bear Harold like went and fought dragons.
I think my weirdest one was Oonts. It was a turtle, life cleric turtle. And with turtles, it's non-gender specific. There's like this whole, not the whole, but there's a bit of singularity to the names. And so I was like, Oonts. And then I was like, okay. And that's actually how I decided to do his voice, is how that sounds. And I tried to mimic however that sounds into a voice. And he sounds, this is Oonts, and I go into like, he does this whole thing, and I think that was probably the weirdest name, because I was like, how do you craft a name that's like one syllable, completely non-gender specific, completely non-individual? Like it was interesting. But that's probably my weirdest one. That and Venge, for when I did a Savage Worlds Cyberpunk. I did Venge. That was a robot.
Cyberpunk. I'm on a cyberpunk kick, so it's dangerous that you're saying that word, because
I'm telling you, Savage Worlds in a Cyberpunk world and Savage Worlds is a lot of fun. Problem is that with hacking, you really got to make sure you have some regulation as the DM or GM, because imagine being able to play D&D and scry whenever you want to about whatever you want to from level 1 on. And so we had a problem where our whole game pretty much got almost destroyed because we had 3 hackers basically, and just hacked our way through the entire missions to a point to where we put ourselves into a bottleneck because there was nothing else. We were like, oh, okay, well, we have enough. That was 20 minutes. You know what I mean? But if you can get around the hacking for a cyberpunk world and make it work, dude, it is great. Like, it is a lot of fun to play.
I forget who it was that I was talking to, but we were just having a conversation about how much Shadowrun shoots itself in the foot with the rules, and that sometimes if you play Shadowrun, you have to start being like, okay, no one's going to be a runner, right? Like, we all agree that this game is perfectly fine as long as we leave that part like in the books and don't mess with it. And so I think it's because I'm looking so much into Genesis lately. I'm actually running a Cyberpunk game in Genesis on Wednesday. It's going to be my first time running the system, and I'm just running the Gen Con free adventure thing. But I'm taking time aside to be like, okay, hacker in the group, like there is a scene that it lets us choose you can make one computer's check and call it good enough, and that's the option for there's no hacker or you don't feel like dealing with hacking. And then there's actually do the hacking rules and stuff like that. And so I'm having to like sit down with him and be like, you're going to help me and you're going to read the hacking rules, because I'm already juggling so much stuff that when it comes time to do this, the hacker needs to know the hacking rules.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. And we found out that the best thing to do was, and I don't know how your experience is going to be, that'll be interesting to watch. We had to do it so you have to specifically say, I'm looking for this specific thing to find out this specific information, and then let the rolls happen. Because what was happening is, okay, make a hacking check, and they would like, in Savage Worlds, I don't know how much Savage Worlds you played, but you get like exploding dice, and they get like a 30 on an 8 check.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so the DM's going, okay, well, I guess you hacked the entire universe and know everything.
That's one of the weird things about more modern RPGs is the wealth of information that is available to the characters. If you're playing a fantasy game, everyone's walking around with swords and bows, and even the wizard with scrying and stuff like that. Like, they are their own little bubble normally, and they are wandering out in the woods somewhere, and you can control what's going on. And if the party gets split up for whatever reason, the information stays within those clumps. But even the times that I've been running Star Wars, I had to keep telling the party, like, you guys are on 2 different levels, but every single one of you has a comm link in your pocket and can talk to everyone at all times. And also you have your own like pads and your own stuff. And like, it is nothing to walk into a tech bar and fire up the Star Wars equivalent of Google and look up what this planet is before you go there. There is no reason to just be like, well, I guess we got to go to the planet and get in the ship and then get there and be like, oh, it's jungles. I wish I had brought a machete.
Right.
Yeah. You got to be checking all that stuff en route to the planet. When I played Star Wars, we got the same thing. You got to know what you're walking into.
And that's part of TTRPGs that I really like, especially on the GM side, is seeing how the players are going to prepare for whatever's going to happen. You know, you get this whole scenario set up for them to go in, and what are they going to do? Are they going to bring rope? Are they going to bring, a grappling hook and all those different kind of gadgets and tools that they need to get through whatever scenario you're putting them in?
I love asking those questions. I'm trying really hard to get better about like not railroading and not leading the players. So I like asking those questions like, okay, what are you guys thinking here? But I don't want it to seem like I'm feeding them is this all the preparation we're going to do?
Right.
Oh, what are we forgetting? So like GMing is always going to be walking that fine line of not leading them and letting them do their own thing. But at a certain time, you have to be like, I'm asking now so that later you guys don't go, well, you never fucking asked us.
Right.
Well, and it's cool that Star Wars has that mechanic. Doesn't Star Wars have a mechanic in it where you can use one of your Force luck? It's been like 4 years. And so you're like, oh, crap, I forgot the binoculars. I'm going to spend this thing. And
the story point, it's story point in Genesis. It's it might still be story point in Star Wars. It's they're so close to each other. I'm trying very hard not to split my rules, but there's different things. But yeah, so the players have a pile of points and the GM has a pile of points. And if the players spin one, it goes to the GM and vice versa. DM behind the screen is in chat, and he says he thinks there's a skill that does that too. It reminds me of there's a Pathfinder Oracle, I want to say it is, build where you can just know ahead of time the stuff that you're going to need. And so when you get to a point where you need the binoculars or the crowbar or whatever it is, you simply just take the gold out of your pocket. And it's implied that when you were in town, you got a strange feeling that you were really going to need a crowbar in the next 2 days, and you bought it back in town. And it's a really interesting build to play because I forget what the monetary requirements are, but it's just like, oh, string, I got that, and you can mark it off your list and be like, I bought it while we were in town. Y'all didn't buy string? Cool. Why did no one buy string? So
I like that. I like having that little fail-safe in there for the players. It's within reason, so it's not like, oh yeah, Vorpal sword. Yeah, I bought one like 3 years ago. I got it right here in my backpack.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's a good mechanic to have for players because you can be like, because it's really hard as a player to sit back and have to think about this person and everything that they would prepare for. But if they were that person, like I know my keys are in my hat when I go to work. I have my keys, my wallet, and all my stuff in my hat. And the player would be the same way. In my backpack, I've got these set of things at all times. And so it's good to have a little mechanic in there that they can pull on and be like, of course I'm going to have a sledgehammer for whatever reason.
The wife saves the day. She says it's destiny points for Star Wars, and that is in fact what it is. At the beginning, you all roll the force die, and that determines how much destiny is on the player side and the DM side. And then DM behind the screen looked it up, and he says you can make a vigilance check for a small piece of gear. So both of those are things.
Awesome.
But yeah, thanks, I totally agree. Like, no matter how much you put yourself in the headspace of a character, a guy who's been piloting his entire life is going to think about different things more than your average accountant who's sitting down to play a pilot is going to think about things. And so it's important to think about that, and as the GM to kind of set that up. We were having a conversation on my last social hour about how GMs can better handle like person who's playing an extremely charismatic character but not necessarily a social butterfly. Like, your character would be good at talking to the guards even if you as a player are not. And then same thing for intelligence. You have a 20 intelligence wizard, he would get this puzzle. Just because the person sitting at the table can't figure it out, sometimes you as the GM have to be like, your character would do blank. Like, your character would understand this, even if you don't necessarily.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good balance to work between your brings in kind of like passive perception, passive investigations, and how those work. Liam O'Brien from Critical Role is really good about saying, well, Liam doesn't know any of this.
Yeah.
But his character, it slipped my mind, the wizard. Widowcast. There we go. Caleb, thank you very much. Remember the last name, not the first name. How weird is that? But yeah, he's like, Caleb knows this. I don't have a clue. And I think that's really good to keep in mind as players, that just because you can't remember a certain, in fact, I ran across this last week with James. There was the path to where we got to where we were at. I literally couldn't remember because we took like a 2-week break. And I was like, I can't even remember how we got here. And I was in like a really critical situation. I was under an interview with somebody, and James was like, yeah, your character would remember that this happened. Yep. So as long as the DM's patient, then you're good to
go. That's always the challenging thing for me, is going, okay, well, do I make him just like roll a random intelligence check, or like, how do I properly inject this into the scene without it seeming just like, well, I'm getting the feeling you guys are dumb, so how do I tell them that they would totally know this without insulting them?
Nonchalantly.
Yeah, because
you know.
Yeah. And give your players, like, if your players start seeing like, I'm supposed to know this and I can't figure it out, that's one thing. It's another thing for the players to like walk in and just like, okay, cool, yeah, let's go to the next place. You know, like,
time out, guys.
You're like, wait a
you
minute.
Would actually, yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole balance between passive perception versus active perception, passive investigation versus active, and the balance between having the ability to walk into a room, because I think it's observed that you get a +5 in both. So like, you walk into a room and my passive investigation as this cleric I had was like a 20. Well, that doesn't mean that I'm like finding secret doors and whatever. It just means if I happen to like walk into a room and I see that it's like a king's desk, I can see there's paperwork and whatever, and I could notice the nuances of the room, but that doesn't mean I'm actually finding anything. I just am able to absorb the nuances better. And I think that's really important for players.
You notice things like, there used to be a rug here because the wood around this area is much more worn, but this patch, but not like, I don't know. I'm one of those people that thinks it's weird when people are like reality breaking on, I rolled a 20, like the king high fives me and lets me sit in his throne, like
right, exactly.
Yeah.
No.
So we've been talking about a lot of Genesis and Star Wars stuff, and there was some Savage World talk in there, but let's back up and go, okay, well, what system is Dice Tyrants using, and what systems do each of you have experience with running or playing?
Mainly we run, honestly, we're going to be running quite a few different ones. Right now I'm running a 5th edition D&D called the Chronicles of Kine. It's a homebrew world, couple new races, new class. And I'm hoping to actually eventually make that into a campaign book at some point in time. And then we actually just started our member known as Ty, or Lot Even Star on Twitter. He created his own tabletop RPG. It's like 380 pages. Did it all himself. He's also the artist for the book. It blows my mind how talented that guy is.
Intense.
Dude,
like,
it is.
I can't even find the time to just play like 5e, the easiest game to just.
It is crazy, and he built literally the universe, and it's pseudo. Go ahead, James. It's crazy.
No, you're good. It's amazing. It's called Aether and Steamworks. It's like a mix of like fantasy meets steampunk meets space travel, I guess.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of like an episode of like Robot Chicken, and like Aqua Teen Hunger Force back in the Adult Swim days, where it's just crazy.
Yeah. It's so good though. And Savage Worlds, we're playing with Savage Worlds. Hopefully we got a Savage Worlds fantasy campaign that's going to drop. Eventually we got to get more players. That's why we're trying to get more players.
Yep.
We just don't have enough players to go around for the games we're trying to get out, because right now we have the rare scenario where we have too many DMs and not enough players.
I was going to say, I've been having the same problem lately. Everyone makes the joke about it's like the MMO equivalent of there's always tanks and healers, or there's always DPS, but you need tanks and healers. Well, same thing for RPGs. Like, there's never enough DMs. Everyone wants to be a player. Playing is the fun, air quote, part of the game, but GMing is work. Except I have given up and just become a forever GM for the most part, and like try to do stuff. And it's harder for me to find players than it is for me to find GMs, and I don't know why that is. The Cyberpunk game that I'm about to run on Wednesday, like, I was looking for players for it for a month. The Essentials kit just came out. I made posts like the first week of July saying I want players for this. Nothing. I made posts the second week of July. Nothing. And then finally I made a post and there was like 30 people that wanted to apply for the 2 empty seats. But still, like, I
may have been one of those people.
Yeah. It honestly took me 4 weeks to get 2 people. And then it was, luckily one tweet blew up and enough people retweeted it that I had 10 people fighting over those 2 seats. But everyone wants to play D&D until you're like, all right, Wednesday, 7:00, be there. Oh, well, my grandma's cat caught fire that day, so
let me check with my boss and see if I can get time off. And and it's like, dude. So yeah, that's our big problem is, and that's a problem is probably the wrong word, because it's a good thing to have. Is we have a lot of content, we just need to fill the seats so we can make these stories come to life. So Aether and Steamworks, D&D, Savage Worlds. Oh, and Sanon's
World of Darkness.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm super excited for that. So for any of you guys and gals that don't know what World of Darkness is it's based in, there's probably other locations available, but it's based in New York City for this game. Werewolves exist, like all the kind of like the mythological creatures that you hear of, like vampires, werewolves, shapeshifters. I think in there it's called Changeling, if I remember correctly, and a bunch of other stuff exist in the shadows. And there's this like, if any of you have ever read the Dresden Files series, which is an awesome book series, by the way, if you haven't read it, it's also a lot like that, where you have those kind of hidden organizations that somewhat come to light in certain areas. And I'm super, super excited to see what happens with that. He's talked to me about that quite a bit lately.
There's conversations about play-by-post happening in chat, because the Legends Die Live made a comment about interest and commitment not necessarily following each other. And one of the main problems I always found in play-by-post, like forum type games, is everyone wants to show up and be excited and build a character and be excited for the story. And the moment you're like, okay, now check in every single day and take your action. I didn't have time. You didn't have time. You didn't have like 3 minutes while laying in bed on your cell phone to be like, I swing my sword, so that the game could continue on.
But yet you were able to go on Facebook and update what you ate for lunch for the world to see.
Exactly.
Everyone has like 2 minutes in a day where they're sitting on a toilet and can check the forums. Come on, y'all.
Exactly.
What about yourself, crew? What do you run? I mean, you said Star Wars. What else do you guys got going over there?
I was RPG adjacent for a while. I've told this story on previous episodes, so I'm sorry for anyone that has to hear this whole thing again. That's what happens when you have one reoccurring person, though. I got into the Pokemon games, and the Pokemon games led to the Pokemon card game, and the Pokemon card game led to Magic the Gathering, and Magic the Gathering led to me using school computers after school to like read up on Magic the Gathering stuff. And because Wizards of the Coast had their community forums, I started bumping into RPG stuff. And so the lore and stuff around the Magic stuff, as well as all of the people who played Magic and D&D, got me paying attention to the D&D side of the house. And so I was reading RPGs and stuff back in 2nd edition, but never actually got to play it because I lived in the middle of nowhere, and it was 2 miles to pavement and 19 miles to town, and that town had like 1,000 people in it, and none of them had even heard of D&D. But then I joined the military, and I joined the military in just about the nerdiest career field you could, because it was airborne cryptologics linguistics. So, nerds.
Nerd soldiers attack. I love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was weird. It was a weird tech school. Just imagine the weird kid in the back of every class you had in high school that was like reading The Hobbit and was in marching band, and put 6,000 of those people on a small army post in Monterey, California, and let them figure out life.
You guys be fun to drink with.
Yeah.
Right.
But so that got me into 3rd edition right as 3.5 was coming out. And so I played a couple of games of that, and then moved to a new tech school. That's actually, I started 3rd edition in Texas. And then when I moved to California, I couldn't play no more. So I had to find new nerds. And we actually started a Star Wars D20 game for 7-8 months.
West Coast? No, what was it? Was it West Coast Games?
West End.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Because it was the West End D6 game, and then it was the Wizards of the Coast D20 game, and then the Rehash Saga edition. So I did some Star Wars, and then in Arizona, 4th edition came out, and I played it a little bit because there was a couple of folks in the shop that were interested in D&D, and it was a new thing, and they were all WoW players, so they weren't really off put by that. Like it's so video gamey now that some people still try to push. Korea, we played Pathfinder for the entire year I was in Korea, and it was very interesting. It's a great system. It is not a great system to do at 2 o'clock in the morning in Korea when everyone's drunk off soju. But I love me some Pathfinder. And then I came back to the States after Korea, and that's when D&D Next was being a thing. So I've been keeping an eye on 5th edition since Next was its title. Got some Dresden Files RPG in there. Got now a little bit of Star Wars. Trying to do more Star Wars, but hard to find people for it. And now messing around with Genesis, Tales from the Loop, Kids on Bike. Like there's an entire shelf of things that I have bought. Really want to play Starfinder. But
I would love to play Starfinder. That looks really cool. Or run it, one or the other. It seems like a really interesting system, and space is always interesting to take part in.
I have a button here where I can do that. Yes. Behind me on the stream now is my china cabinet full of books. And it's got just about everything. I think I've added 10 books since I took that picture, though. Particularly Things from the Flood came out. I got the Starfinder core rule book, which is not in that picture.
Wow.
There's some 2nd edition books up on top that got cropped out. But yeah, mostly fantasy and Star Wars, but willing to do everything, and definitely looking to try new things. So,
what did you think of the Dresden Files TTRPG?
Verdict's still out on that one because the people that I was playing it with did not make it an enjoyable experience, and I would be willing to try it again. But it's one of those things. If you're playing like Call of Cthulhu, you need the right group to get a Call of Cthulhu vibe. And let's drink beers, make dick jokes, and play D&D.
Is not Dresden
really
Files at all.
Right. Is not Call of Cthulhu or Awaken or Dresden Files or that kind of stuff. So willing to try it again. I did not immediately hate the system like the one Shadowrun one shot that I tried. That's a whole another story.
Shadowrun can get trashed really quick if you have the wrong people. Something is Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah.
I tried that back when it first launched. Like, don't have to date myself, but when it turned into Twilight, teen angsty.
Oh God.
Nope, I checked out. I was thinking Lost Boys and Bram Stoker. You guys are going like a completely different route. I'm out.
Twinkling vampires. It's wonderful.
So you say Star Wars. I am a huge Star Wars fan, like big time.
He really is.
Yeah, I'm not like I don't claim to be anybody like the lore king, but I have to know. Do you know who Darth Bane is, and are you a fan?
Darth Bane? Sorry,
Yes.
you kind of garbled there for a second. Yes,
Yeah,
I know who
Darth
Darth Bane. And yes, I would say Darth Bane fan.
Yes, dude.
I'm one of those weird ones. Like I've been around Star Wars for a long time, but it's funny going back to that in Monterey playing the D20 Star Wars game. They forced me to be the DM because everyone assumed that I would be the player that would correct the DM on lore. So they're like, you have to DM because you're the Star Wars guy. But like when all is said and done, just about everyone out there knows as much, if not more, Star Wars stuff than I do because I got like a day job and shit. And so, so like, yeah, I have Boba Fett as my avatar on most things. Yes, my screen name is Bounty Hunter on most things because I claimed them all back in 2004. But like, I still have not sat down and watched the Clone Wars like TV show because I don't have time most of the time. If I have 4 hours free, I'm trying to like game or catch up or whatever. But active duty military, trying to knock out college, still want to do gaming, project car in the garage, wife and now newborn upstairs. Like I got shit to do, y'all.
Shit to do, man. Yeah, I get most of my stuff because I'm a full-time single dad and I have to drive an hour every morning and every night to my son to his school because he goes to a special school. So we listen to Audible books. So I've got like probably got to be close to 50 titles now of Star Wars from Audible. And I get most of my stuff from that. Like 90% of the knowledge that I have is based out of the books, both pre Disney taking over, like the old saga and the new stuff.
Most of my knowledge is actually seep back to it was 19 miles to town. Well, the bus did not go in a straight 19-mile line. It went out and got all the weird kids off of all the farms and did a bunch of loops. So I had a 45-minute bus ride every morning. And most of that was Tales from Jabba's Palace and Tales of the Bounty Hunters and Dark Saber and stuff like that. So most of my Timothy Zahn. Most of my Star Wars knowledge, I have lots of good Star Wars knowledge, but most of it is like late 90s, early 2000s Star Wars stuff. A lot of the
you should check out the new Timothy Zahn. They had him rewrite some of the Thrawn series stuff. There's 3 books for Thrawn. The 3rd book's dropping next month, I think. I think you'd be pleasantly surprised. There's actually a Thrawn Vader book where they actually work together, and pretty damn good. It was really good.
Invited you guys on for RPG talk, and we're going to nerd out about Star Wars.
Whenever you get Tony involved and get another Star Wars guy, it's going to
Star Wars will come.
My fault. I'll take blame.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I want to play more Star Wars. I'm actually. You were talking about upping the production value and being more professional on the Dice Tyrant stream. That's something I'm currently doing for my own channel because, like I said, I was supposed to be deployed right now. I was supposed to be not in the country, so that was actually supposed to happen in April originally. And I kind of hurried up and finished out the Tomb of Annihilation game where I was a player, but I also kind of like really pushed my Thursday night Star Wars group to like get to the end of the official module that we're doing. We were stumbling through the like everyone's Fisher Price, my first Star Wars adventure, and we did Beyond the Rim. But I like really hammered, hey, we need to be wrapped up by February because March is going to be crazy for me and the wife is going to want my time and then I'm going to be gone. And then it got delayed. And then it pushed to the summer and then stuff happened, real life stuff I won't get into. But now I am home. So, okay, all my games are canceled and I have no obligation to anybody. Real good time to buy a new camera. New microphone will be here on Wednesday. Like I'm knocking out the essentials kits gonna stream that on Wednesdays, like I said, but like great time to like reassess and go, do I want to be one of another million channels streaming 5e, or like is this my chance to be like, I owe nobody nothing, I'm gonna be one of the few Genesis streams out there, or Star Wars, or is this my chance to get into Kids on Bike and, you know, Tales from the Loop and like explore other things? So I'm not signing up for anything long term at this point, but I am trying to be more professional, get my like face cam set up and be more that, instead of just like, here's a window capture with the OBS overlay of Discord on top of it, whatever. All my streamed games have been games that focused on the game, and I happen to record them instead of like, we are a stream that even acknowledges the audience, basically. So
that's the exact conversation that James and I had about 8 months a year ago. We decided that it was best that we went PG-13 as much as possible, which was a huge, out of all. That
was probably the hardest change for everybody.
Out of the cameras and the microphones and switching your desk so that you can have a back wall and not looking at your hoarder house and all of the things that we thought were going to be the hard thing to cover, it was getting people to buy in to go PG-13, and we're pretty loose about it. We literally lost good players because they did not want to make that change. They thought we were selling out or whatever it was. But that was a big thing, is we want to make sure that our content was, that there was, we want to share these stories. So we want to make sure there was enough, more people want to watch. And that's a younger generation. And let's be honest, the younger generations are the ones who are on YouTube 24/7.
Yeah.
They go to school watching it. They get off school. They go to, it's just the way their generation is. And if we, not that I'm trying to be anybody's, you know, a role model, but at the same time, like you said, it's about being a little more professional.
If you're trying to be professional, though, you need to keep that in mind. And there are people, I don't like want to call them out, but like Seth runs the Monday Nights podcast, which is a 3.5 podcast that I listen to, and I'm in a like DM collaboration group with him and stuff. And their shtick is, come watch a bunch of guys get drunk, cuss a bunch, and like play D&D. And if that's your selling point, good.
Do that, exactly.
Right. But one of the things I've always tried to do is my tutorial videos, my unboxings and stuff like that. I say that I've only done one unboxing, but anything that's like instructional in nature like that, I have kept it calm, cool, and professional, unless like I'm a maintainer in the military now and have been for a decade and a half. Like, we cuss, we throw wrenches at things, like it happens. But DM behind the screen is in chat, and he can attest to the fact that our conversation about the Essentials Kit stream, we have all been like, let's make sure that we're being the best we can be for the stream, where we've, you know, verified that everyone is, you know, going to be using correct pronouns. I told everyone like, hey, I'm trying to cuss less, like it might happen, but don't be afraid to like hit me on Discord while we're playing and be like, hey man, you're saying fuck a lot, like, and I'll tone it down. Like we're trying to like skirt back closer to that PG line and make it more of a show that people could listen to. And with it being the Essentials Kit, I think it's important that there's going to be a lot of parents and kids and couples and stuff playing the Essentials Kit. So if I want the people who are like, what is this Essentials Kit? Is D&D something that my kids should be getting into, or something I could get in with my kids? I think it should be closer to that PG-13 and more professional, instead of, it's not just me hanging out with my buddies. It's me and a bunch of people from the internet who have made an agreement to be like, let's do this thing.
Yep. I respect that. I completely commend that, because that's exactly how we thought of it. Was this isn't sitting around drinking rum and cokes, swear to divorce. This is, we're going to throw ourselves out the internet and try to share our stories, and we need to make sure we can do that with as many people as possible. So I commend you, because that's where I think a lot of this should go. And I'm former military. I swear, I have got probably the dirtiest, foulest old man mouth in the world, but when this mic's on and we're doing our thing, we allow ourselves 2 F words, and we always call each other out when it happens. And, you know, it's going to happen. Like, you're going to make mistakes.
Exactly.
Especially when it's live, but we make a literal conscious effort not to do it. And I think that's where the community should start moving a little bit, because there are kids watching. And that's our next generation of dice rollers. That's we're now in the unique position of transitioning over to them this world that we've grown up in and loved.
Mm-hmm.
We should be a decent example to do that.
One of the things that I've been telling myself for like a year that I need to learn how to do is actually go in and censor stuff. My streams and stuff like that are going to be live, so it's going to happen. But as I'm putting stuff on YouTube, as I'm putting stuff on Anchor so that it can be spread out like across different things, I actually need to make the effort. If I'm going to be in there editing audio anyways, like I can censor words like no big deal.
Exactly.
But, make a funny sound.
Speaking of that, I guess, what all is Dice Tyrants on? Since I want to bounce some of the focus back to you guys, like, are y'all just a stream? Like, do you convert it to audio only and put it on all the podcast sites? Like, where can we listen to Dice Tyrants?
Yeah, so you can listen to us on YouTube. So YouTube's going to be kind of like our offline platform. We stream to Twitch. I want to get into podcasts, but I don't currently see myself having the time to do that with a full-time job and then like DMing and managing all the content right now. But possibly podcast might be something that I could make work. But editing audio, I'm fairly new at too.
Me too. But in the meantime, if you're just wanting to like spread out your available audience, I guess, you can just use like VLC and take your recorded MP4 file and just convert it to MP3. And if nothing else, that's it. One more spot where your content can be found. So it may just be literally the audio from your YouTube video. But if you're wanting to get, if nothing else, the search engine optimization out there of like our show is on Google Podcast and iTunes. And then later, once you have time and effort and knowledge, which is the big thing for me, to like get into Audacity and be like, I want to level everyone's volumes to be correct and stuff like that. Then you can burn that bridge when you get to it. But right now, that's the step I'm taking, at least, is like, hey, I just recorded this one shot. I'm taking the effort to put it on YouTube. I can also just, it takes like 3 minutes for VLC to turn the MP4 into an MP3. And then I can Anchor. I'm new to the podcast side, so I don't know if Anchor is like the best thing ever. But as someone with no time and lazy, here's my 2 cents on Anchor. I can put an audio file on Anchor, and then in 20 minutes it's on Google and Spotify and iTunes and all of the things, and I don't have to have 15 accounts and worry
that's
about it.
Freaking sweet, dude. I didn't know that.
Just upload an MP3 on one site,
that's awesome.
and it sends it. There's other ones out there that do that too, so Anchor's not the only one, but like I put like 2 minutes of effort into like, here's the new episode of Roll High Don't Die. So
that's awesome.
That's
that
really
cool.
I had no idea. You said that was called Anchor?
Anchor. I'll send you a link to it on Discord when we're done.
I appreciate that, man.
Speaking of links, you talked about all the stuff you're on. I, of course, went to your Twitter and like got all your links and stuff. But if there's anywhere else you want me to link to in the down below of my YouTube video, just hit me up afterwards and make sure that I'm, sending out your merch store and all the stuff that you want me to spam down below.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Excellent.
All right, we got about 10, call it 15 at the max minutes before I start winding this down and go take my shift with the baby. So one of you guys ask a question, start a topic. What do we got?
What's your favorite feat?
Favorite feat? My left one.
Yeah, good. I was hoping for that. That's a good dad joke. You're in trade. You're getting it down. You said you got a newborn. That's good.
Yeah, the pun game has always been strong. The wife hates it. I don't want to spend 15 minutes telling a story to get to a single pun, but I got some like 15-minute like D&D pun stories of where I baited the DM into it like the whole way just so that I could make a pun. And then the one time I played a bard, like I started out being like, I'm not going to be the sarcastic pun sleep with everyone bard. And then I couldn't help. There was just so many. The wife's barbarian cut off a goblin's ear, and I picked it up and told him he could Vincent Van Gogh fuck himself. Them kind of things. My favorite feat, actually, for 5th edition, I'll use that one. I kind of like skilled. I like picking up more skills, especially because I really like playing rogues and stuff like that. But normally there's somebody in the group who wants to fill that position. So I am not opposed to like grabbing a cleric and then picking up skilled and then coming up with fun and interesting ways of why my cleric should have the survival skill or the sleight of hand skill or something like that. So I like the fun twist that picking up the skilled feat can put on someone, but also once in a while just throw it on a lord bard or a rogue and be like, what? There's only 2 things I don't have proficiency with? Like, come at me, y'all.
Yeah, right. Give me a break. Dude, that's crazy.
Expertise in 7 things and a check mark next to everything.
James, what's your favorite feat, or what's your most hated feat as a DM?
My most hated feat is observation.
Observation?
I hate that.
Not lucky?
Passive perception of 20 is insane. I know we talked about that earlier, but sometimes, I mean, thing is, if someone takes that feat, they're sacrificing so many other awesome feats. You got to give them a little something when they walk into a dangerous area or something like that.
Yeah, you should. You did. My job was hunting down magic people. I need to be as perceptive as possible to find them. My favorite feat is Warcaster if you're a caster.
Yeah,
that's lovely. And melee wise, and I love Tavern Brawler. I built a whole barbarian just off the Tavern Brawler feat itself. That was a wolf, a animal totem wolf, barbarian, knuckle fighter, and he was wicked mean. Tavern Brawler, don't sleep on it, people, because it's great.
So, semi-related. Tavern Brawler Barbarian is a very like tropey kind of thing. Do both of y'all or either of y'all have a very good example of here's a trope that I took and turned on its head, or what is your least tropey character? Like, what's your really smart, educated barbarian, or your crazy mad dog wild cleric? Or do you have a character like that that's just like completely against the grain?
For me, I'd probably be the closest thing to that, is probably the Maximian Arcast I'm playing now. And that's because we're playing in a world that is extremely limited to magic. And so we had to go out and find, this Magi class, and we worked with it. So he's pretty much, not that he's unintelligent, but he's very like, I'm not going to stand out anyway, when most wizards are like, I'm here to be, you should come to me for everything. I am the source of all things. Yeah, Maximilian's more like, oh, there's bad guys and there's bad shit going down. I don't want to be here. And I'm going to pull out a sword and shield. And the last thing I'm going to do is use magic. So it creates this weird melee character, super powerful wizard growing in the background. And so you kind of get that untropy feel.
That's really interesting, though. My example for that one tends to be this cleric warlock multiclass that I made, which normally is not a thing that people put together.
Different patrons, or the same?
So I've told the story before. Again, apologies for anyone that's had to listen to this damn warlock story again. But life cleric, warlock, nautical campaign. So she was the ship's quartermaster, and like we had a bunch of NPCs running the ship, of course, while the adventuring party would go off and do stuff. And I was the good go-between the party and the NPCs. But I was the superstitious, crazy, like Caribbean voodoo witch doctor, right? Who was like, you have to have a cat on the ship, and you can't sail on this day of the month, and you can't do this one.
If the June bug walks in the shadow,
right? Like all of the crazy, like I throw the bones and read signs and entrails and stuff like that, craziness. And then all of my healing spells and stuff from life cleric were reskinned to be like, instead of just I put my hands out and there's a glowing yellow light and you're healed, it's like, oh well, I've got this paste made of like 3 different herbs and spider eyes,
the hair of a jackal,
and so it was that.
I love it already.
My patron and my deity were 2 sides of the same coin, basically. My patron was I forget what setting it was, but it was the god of the ocean, right? The one that you would pray to for safe passage on a ship and stuff like that. My warlock deity, though, was like essentially Davy Jones. So like both sides worshipped the ocean, but one was like, please Sky Daddy, let me cross the ocean safely. And the other one was like, if you don't do the things, the ocean will swallow you and you will go to a place so dark and cold that no one will ever escape. And so it was very weird.
Already, like, this
Yeah.
is
That's
like
awesome.
Yes, this.
I really like that.
But like when you say life cleric, everyone expects a dwarf in chainmail with yellow armor and lion's head pauldrons and like glowing yellow hands. Not a like super crazy water genasi who also sacrifices animals to the ocean. So
dude, I'm in love with that character and I've never met it. I love it already.
I should really bring her back. I have some weird characters where like I would like to bring back and just, especially if a game started off at a higher level, like inject them into another campaign, like the barbarian, Reign Against Cliffs. He technically got turned into a statue at level 7. However, at the end of the campaign, we were gifted the statue back because he was frozen by a basilisk. So I was given the statue of my character back. And so at some point, I'm going to come up with a reason for Reign to be healed and thawed. And, you know, he'll have the memory of getting almost to the Tomb of Annihilation and then having 3 levels of exhaustion and getting killed by or frozen by a basilisk. But he's going to have a very triumphant return one of these days.
That's great. I love taking my characters and like Unz was the life cleric, but like really he had a reef bow and I talk about his axe and his weapons and what he was wore, and it was all this like nautical themed ocean, like he used driftwood. I mean, I love taking the time to build those little things that your characters do, because one, we're building entertainment streaming, so it draws the audience, but biggest thing is it gets me in character a lot, where I'm like, okay, I can imagine me digging through my pouch of many pockets and pulling out my baubles and handing someone a conch shell and telling them that it's an aphrodisiac and it's really not, you know, like these little things that the characters do and people are like, oh yeah, give them a conch shell, you know, your other players get involved. It's great.
Your conch shell reminded me again, puns, like I have to, like it's a thing. I don't want to spoil Storm King's Thunder, but there's a point in it where a conch is relevant to the story. And we get all the way in there and we're talking to Redacted to get the conch shell from him. And he asks why my character really wants this conch. And I just shrug and I'm like, I don't know. I'm a conscientious objector. And grab it and run. But just like stupid little shit like that. Just like, you know, Tomb of Horrors, we were looking for the mini columned hall and we come into a hall and it's got like the fake things on the side and somebody's like, is this the mini columned hall from the riddle? And I'm like, nope, this ain't the one. And they're like, well, how can you be sure? And I'm like, I don't know, I just call them like I see them. Sorry,
I love it, man.
Oh boy,
I'm a terrible person, but people get me back. Yeah, people get me back though, because like my last really big one shot was a D&D 5e game where I just grabbed a bunch of people off my Discord and off Twitter, and it was one of the guys from Courser's Folly, one of the guys, the guy who runs 1 in 20 D&D. We had one of my patrons, we had the wife, and I just let him Goblin Nobility, that was the final guy. I just let him run wild. I was like, make weird characters, tell you what, play whatever race you want, and you can change one of the racial ability modifiers to any other ability that you want. So if you want to be a halfling barbarian, knock yourself out. Like, change your dex to strength, ready, go. And they made a bunch of weird, crazy characters. We had a cannibalistic grandpa tiefling druid. We had
wow.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
that was a thing. Legends Die Alive. Mike from Legends Die Alive was a very interesting high elf in the other sense of the word. Diveris, which is actually an NPC from their campaign, so he's doing a lot of smoking pipe weed and casting illusion spells to really fuck with the goblin. We had a goblin paladin or a goblin fighter, I forget which, in the group. But long story short, all of them got back on me for all of my jokes and puns and derailings that I do to them and their content, because together they spent he says it's an illusionist wizard meets Mr. Burns.
Excellent.
Together for 4.5 hours. They derailed even the thinnest plot of a one-shot and created a chicken-based religion because they stole a chicken from a halfling's farm, and Diveris, the wizard, kept casting illusions on it, so the goblin thought the chicken was talking, and that the chicken was a god trapped in chicken form. So off into the swamp they went and fought a bunch of lizards and fought a bunch of bandits and came back to town and started a religion based on Lord Cluck Cluck.
Yeah, I love it. That'll be my next warlock patron, Lord Cluck.
Yep, there you go. See
and it'll give me courage wherever I go. Just to be, flip it on its head a little bit.
It was really fun. I haven't written it out, but I have a follow-up to that one shot, and I'm gonna have to find a night where all 5 of those people are free again if the stars happen to align, and be like, okay, foul happenings part 2.
And go. I love it. That's great.
But I digress. Gentlemen, it has been an hour. Any closing comments, questions, concerns, anything else I can do for y'all?
Thanks, man. It's been
awesome.
Yeah, it's been fun.
So I do this stuff all the time. I'm trying to get better about it now that I have not a deployment looming and stuff like that. I have another one coming up Tuesday. I have another one Sunday, and then another one next Tuesday. I'm going to have Treant Monk on here. I'm going to have the guys from Not Quite Heroes on here. A few other guest stars. But if you guys ever want to do another one of these, or if you want to get the whole crew or folks from your server or any of that stuff, don't be afraid to reach out to me and be like, hey man, you want to do another social hour? And I'll be like, I got Thursday open. Does that work for y'all? So don't necessarily wait on me to contact you is what I'm saying. Don't be afraid to be like, dude, we just got this guy in our server and he's really cool and I think you'd love him. Let's do a thing.
I think that'd be super fun.
Oh yeah, I can guarantee you'll hear that. You'll hear back from us.
Send me a link to your Discord. I have way too many already, but I will take on one more because I am always looking for more systems and more guinea pigs for those systems. And so I can't promise that I'll be like a Dice Tyrant DM, but maybe once in a while, if y'all just we want to test these people out to see if they're any good. Let's get in a game together, and we need a seat filler. I'll be that guy.
Yeah, that'd be really cool, man. We appreciate it. That's awesome.
Yeah, hell yeah, brother.
Well, I appreciate y'all coming by. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording here.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. It's awesome, man.